All right, folks. Welcome to the first TFSC we've had in a while. We have a behemoth of an agenda, so let's get rolling. Hopefully Dr. Bosco will join us. Carlos Mason's going to be gone. So I guess just a quick, before we jump into the business, and we'll leave you to our questions. Just kind of a game plan. So I'm going to talk about the kinesiology and personal financial planning, votes, and fees. We need to talk about academic infrastructure support fee. Sorry I said that out to you, so I hit send at noon, but there's a lot of pictures of different classrooms and stuff, and it was too big for email, so I sent that a little later. It's okay if you haven't read it, though. We'll be able to talk through it, give you a little update on that. We'll talk about our fee review process very quickly, so everybody's on that, and then we'll get a discussion about improvements to our new process proposal. Tuition stuff will be coming down the line. I don't know if everybody's seen the news about the activities of the legislature, but perhaps there's good news to come for higher ed. Maybe.
They're adjourned.
They're adjourned. Well, the good news is, no news now.
No more meddling.
But maybe in May, there's some money on the bill.
Yeah, I think we're waiting now for the return.
It's April 26th to the 4th. It's like a tight window.
Yeah.
On this bill and a bunch of other stuff. And perhaps there's money for us in there.
Sue indicated she anticipates the new governor will have some amendments to the governor's budget since it's Brown back. They put forward the budget and things, and so.
That is one thing, though, is that the Senate or the legislature passed a K-12 finance bill that spends less money than was allocated in the governor's budget, so it won't rob it won't rob Peter to pay Paul, essentially, because it's less money than Paul was originally allocated. I was in a meeting with Dr. Dorhout. I said it's physically robbing Peter Dorhout to pay for it. Nobody laughed.
So we need to find a Paul.
Right, we need to find a Paul and K-12 somewhere out there. So
all right, Jack. There's just on that note. There's a GR update this Friday, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Governor's GR.
Government relations. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, sorry. I need to speak the lingo, Cynthia. I'm seeing it.
It's
Right.
So yeah. That's Friday.
I don't know.
It's Friday.
Northern noon.
It's at noon. I don't know where it's at.
Yes.
But essentially, what we'll be doing here the next couple of weeks, I was talking to Vice President Monterey, and I talked and working with the budget office, we'll put together some tuition scenarios for presentation, right?
Yes, perfect, because we're not going to know everything,
right? And
we don't want to wait till they make decisions, because you all won't be leaving Manhattan until June, maybe. But anyway, so we're going to do best scenarios of what we think will happen, and just present that, and hopefully that will work. We pretty much have a good idea of what our costs are going to be as far as mandatory health insurance, things like that, what we need to fund. We just need to kind of figure out what's happening with tuition. And I will share that the board, if we would get some restoration funding, that the board would expect like from zero, a very low tuition rate increase, Board of Regents. And so that's kind of where we are right now. So it will be pretty much very similar to what you
All right. All we talked about is that we're going to talk about tuition later.
So is that next week?
If we can do next week, that'd be great. If not, no worries. We can move on. We have a couple more weeks of tuition. All kinds of stuff to do. So we'll be good.
We'll talk then.
Sounds good.
See how quick I need some spreadsheets.
Excellent. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the College Tuition Committee votes. So just a refresher, kinesiology voted 13-0 to pass a, is there $50?
Yeah.
There's $15. And then PFP passed 11-2 to get $20 fee. So just to be upfront, I guess, with the concern is that when Jonathan and I presented to Faculty Senate, they stood there to witness this this presentation. Presented faculty senate, just a little bit of an update what was going on in SGA. There's a lot of pushback, a lot of concern, and a lot of, I guess, good commentary on opening the door to department fees, or we approve department fee. This will be the first department fee to be approved by TFSC. And there's a department head in the meeting who talked about how he said, I'm absolutely 100% against department fees, but that if that's an option, I have no choice but to pursue that option down the road. I think it's a really interesting point that even though he fundamentally disagrees with that, his great point, very honest, very candid, and saying that he has, everybody, every college, every department has needs, and if this is isolated as a possibility for revenue, it would look bad to not pursue that, which I totally get. The other side of it, talking to Jordan about this beforehand, if we approve department fee, we're going to have 120 departments come back next year and ask for a fee. Which, I don't know if everybody realizes or not, but administratively this year has been a little hectic. So, to continue on that. So, Jonathan, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So one idea that kind of Jack and I and a couple others, Heather and Brian Linshield, had as we were kind of meeting between faculty senate and TFSC was we were required tonight to take a vote on whether the kinesiology department tuition committee and the PFP department tuition committee followed the process properly. But then we were wondering, well, is there a possibility that we could take a second vote with our stance on department-wide fees, understanding that there is some concern in the room on that. So,
how much of a pulse does President Myers have on what's happening right now? I mean, I know Provost Mason has a good one, but
No.
yeah.
My question is not a lot.
It
I don't
would
know.
be very helpful for the president to receive your input. Because to be quite frank, I don't think there has been a discussion at the cabinet level on how the university wants to move forward with fees. And with our new budget model, I think there's going to need to be some discussion of that and what expectations are. So I think your input would be very much appreciated.
I might even add to that, that I'm not sure that there's been that discussion here, at least since we kind of gone to this new CTC model, where pretty much the CTC model got adapted to a department-wide fee without us having any discussion about whether department-wide fees were something we support.
Because so I guess just for Jonathan and I, we're sitting there watching the emails come in from the provost. 2 emails came in.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering and architecture, and she said, I've got human ecology kind of on the burner. I got to figure out a couple of things. Just working with clarifying information. It doesn't sound like she was changing anything, but clarifying some information, I'll get it to you. And then once we got it, we were like full speed ahead, we're going to go.
Yeah.
Not even kind of a consideration about how, you know what I mean? So, but I think we have an opportunity here to take a stance on that.
but
What's up?
in some ways, I don't think PFP followed the right process. I mean,
That's
a good point of discussion. I think all of these are somewhat could be separate conversations, and we just kind of take them up one issue at a time and move from there. Because I think kind of like when we were debating engineering, we were kind of struggling with the issue of did the CTC follow the process versus all the things we don't like about the fee. So
my thing is that President Myers put forward a college of engineering fee last year, and we voted again. We all either voted not to approve it or voted to oppose it. So
yeah.
we didn't want it, and it was 10-0. But he still took it forward.
Took part of it forward. It's just in total fairness to him.
Yeah.
The $38 presentation took 15.
But then you combine pressure from Dean Buckwalter, and now he'll have one student group that says yes and one student group that says no. That's more leverage to take it forward to the board than engineering was last year, and it still took engineering.
But I don't know if these have to go forward. I don't think they hit the threshold, right? These department fees, I'm assuming that.
The threshold is 250.
Okay.
I mean, it's too Yeah, we're gonna put that forward. You're right,
Right.
because the board has a policy that says any fee that generates less than 250,000 can be approved by the CEO.
But in the BFP's case, that's 245,000 compressed among what, 53?
Well, but so for this year though, PFP produces $69,640.
But spread throughout the very few people they have in their undergraduate program.
Well, what do you?
It was also graduate.
Oh, you're saying the impact of the individual students.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes total sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. But I just mean in terms, I was just saying both of these,
Yeah.
the totals are below the threshold. But Cindy, we kind of talked about that last year when we were talking about department-wide, and that said it would still have to be presented on the fee schedule, right?
There's a comprehensive fee schedule that it needs to be disclosed on, yes.
Okay. But it's not a presentation for approval by the board?
It's not required.
I see.
So we will need to have a discussion whether we would want to include it. So I think it would be more transparent to disclose both, but we haven't made decisions yet on what the proposal will include. And a lot of it's going to depend on what comes out from this group, what recommendations.
Because I guess to put my point more eloquently, yes, it's only 69,000, but I mean, if that was like in the College of Business or the College of Engineering or anywhere else, that would be a non-issue. You wouldn't need to disclose it, I feel like. But that's that fee placed on one department that's very small, if that makes sense.
That's a good
I think you're making a strong point there with the $250,000 isn't necessarily a good threshold.
Yeah, and that's $20 per credit hour for every student.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a high impact.
It's for example, a $20 increase on College of Engineering students, if it was across the entire college, it would have to go before the Board of Regents. It have to be decided by them. Whereas since they concentrate the group, they could have a much larger increase. Is that $60,000 number right that this one's raising?
69.
Yeah.
There could be a proposal on the small group that could be 4 times as large and still be below the capacity.
In part of the art, I wasn't comfortable, like if like engineering, for example, if we did it each department, since it's all in one college, it seems only fair to record both of those. I would look at human ecology very similar. There's 2 fees coming forward when you add them all up.
They're both over.
Sure.
You bet.
It would meet that threshold. I mean, and again, this is just Cindy's rationale right now. I haven't discussed it with Provost Dr. Bosco or anyone. Just trying to work through how we would.
So I've got a number that supports what you're saying.
Okay.
So it's like, even though, so I totally respect that. I was just going to say that it's just the impact of the student is the same, even though the impact of the university is a lot
Even
less.
the revenue generates is less.
Yeah. The $900,000 impact to College of Engineering,
But
when
it's
it's
a
only.
smaller group of individuals, whereas university-wide affects 20,000. This is only affecting a very small number of students.
Yeah.
There's that perspective also.
Absolutely.
And not only will department heads have reason to come back because we approve department-wide fees, but if they set the precedence that they don't go before the board, that it's just an internal decision, then we're really going to have them running after us trying to increase fees on the department if they know they don't have to go to the board with it.
And I think that if, never mind. I mean, never mind.
Well, I'm struggling too, because Drew has a good point. It's like,
So this is kind of a new, we just haven't had a lot of experience with that. And I guess part of what I was saying is that the board maybe would have concern even with that threshold.
Yeah.
I think it was more of, trying to manage the bureaucracy, if you will, and trying to put some reasonableness with threshold dollar amounts and not having to go to them with every little thing. I'm thinking of course fees where.
a chemistry lab fee.
Yeah,
I get that.
We're paying for consumables that are used by students during these courses. That's.
It makes a lot of sense.
So that's where they're trying to match, and we maybe are, if we're moving into different times, and that's why it's just so important to have that discussion as administration, and the deans have to be included in that. What is right for K-State in these, where we want to move forward.
I think sorry, go ahead. I keep cutting
No,
out.
we really have tried to be resistant. Doesn't feel that way. I know Dr. Bosco he's not really supportive, he's been somewhat resistant to promoting these fees, and we really have tried to do that, but with financially, we're just in different situations, and so we need to have the conversation, I think, as a campus. Students need to have that input and that voice also, along with administration. We need to figure that out. And I think our budget model will kind of promote that conversation also. Fair?
Yeah, I think you're excellent. I think shared governance is a bear. It's tough.
Yeah.
What would happen, and not to any way minimize the two proposals you have in front of you. Due diligence was paid, and I appreciate the effort that the department, the college, and you put in. I'm a great pause with departmental fees because of what's been raised. What would happen, and again, let's just throw this out there, that we look at tuition. If in fact, and I don't know what the parameters are be given to us from tuition, what happens if we look at a portion of tuition that would go over the top and go to the departments? That your comment about there's not a department of the university that right now is not hurting with the pending challenges we have. What would happen if we think out of the box, and again, I'm not sure what that means, that we take, that if tuition is X, we go X plus, but the plus is going to go directly to departments in some way. And then we monitor, we ask for proposals, we ask for a plan. I don't know what X would be, but I am taken back by the argument that there's absolutely no way any department on campus cannot justify some kind of increase. And we do open that door, and we are trying to social engineer as best we can a very complex puzzle. And maybe if we look at it a little broader, maybe there might be some possibilities for us. Or that we go X minus tuition, and that minus is allocated out directly to departments.
I think it brings, and I know I brought this up with Jack, I think it comes back to, as we get into new budget models, enrollment management strategies, are we talking about differential tuition at a department or program level? Because that's what these fees are essentially doing. You know what I mean? Are we going to have every department have their own tuition rate? Because that's about the extent, you know what I mean, of what, and then how are you going to help departments decide what that level is? You know what I mean, I guess, or what level they should be at. And then you could go to something like Dr. Bosco suggests, is there then just X plus that returns, you know what I mean? Or how does that work, I guess, in things?
So some of the arguments that I've heard from this committee is that they're not comfortable with every student paying in to support a department that they have no benefit in.
Right.
And that's part of the rationale that we are moving more towards the college fees. Because the return on investment, which we've talked about, and the affordability of the flat tuition, if you will, where everybody's paying the same. In some areas in their careers, you just don't get that return. And so that's part of why we're evolving the way we are. Because we could do what Dr. Bosco is suggesting, and we can go out and say, how much, we know what the revenue they're generating, how much would we need to add, it'd be a small 0.1% or something in order to generate that revenue. And then we have a line that says we're going to build this into your base appropriation. But that means every student pays for that. So part of the rationale with the fees is that goes directly to the colleges. They get the benefit. There's no argument about it. That revenue that they generate, it gets directly allocated to them. And we expect them to spend it on what they've shared with this committee, what they're going to spend it on. So they're going to comply with what they told you that they're going to use those revenues for. I do think with moving forward with the strategic enrollment initiative and all of these things we have going on, it's time the university sat down and really analyzed and made a decision on what is comfortable moving forward, and how we structure our tuition and fees. And I don't know if we're there yet.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of frustrated because there was a group that looked at that and that's.
Is it the committee you were on?
Yeah, the committee I was on, that Trent was on for a bit, and like, I know that a lot of that's.
And it went to a college,
Yeah.
and I think it got kind of delayed
Delayed the call.
because from the deans.
Right.
Not moving forward. And because of the budget modernization, other things that were happening, it just kind of made sense to wait until we get information back from the consultants and how we're moving things forward. But it's gonna have to be reevaluated, and absolutely.
That's what I think was interesting is, so I totally 100% get that. And my thought is, if we can wait, I know this is apples and oranges, but my thought was something that, well, sorry, but you and I talked about this last summer. Sure. Maybe if we're gonna be hesitant to move into a new model, we should be hesitant to move any new fees then. Until we have that model. So I'm not committing anybody supports that. I'm just saying there was like a conversation we had kind of openly with an SGA. It was like, hey, you know what? If it truly is a moving target, and that's a big deal, let's at least have the marksman be not moving.
Yeah. At times it's felt like institutional progress has been put on hold repeatedly, but student fee increases have never been put on hold, in a lot of instances.
So, those of you who haven't said a lot today.
Yeah, is that, I need to shut up.
Right.
Group dynamic model.
So moving forward, let's say we do, like say the process was followed and everything. So what are we going to tell the rest of the department heads now that, you heard it, it was overwhelming support from the CTCs. So we're between a rock and a hard place. So we pass these fees, and then next year, and then we've got the department, and so let's say we pass these fees, and then we go on to say, no more department fees though. So these two just squeaked by. So then we've got department heads after us, maybe not us specifically, but people are after us. So then we say no to these fees, and then we've got students after us. So where's the balance? Yeah. Oof. Yeah, oof. Personally, I'd rather have the students after us. Honestly, I would rather say no to these fees and shut the door on departmental fees. Cindy, it's like you were saying, we've kind of devolved it down. We've decentralized it now to the colleges. So now this would be another step, decentralizing it down to the departments. What's next?
I'm worried you're going to have a chemistry fee that pays for lab instructors.
Yeah.
And not thermometers.
Yeah.
Just because that's kind of the way. Seriously though.
No.
I think looking at the founding documents of this committee, the department fees are just like such a stretch in what we're supposed to be doing here. And even these annual college fee increases are kind of bending our backs into, the students will approve this because the students like it. But it's just such like a perversion of what this committee was set up to do. We're doing it every year.
We just now, this year, addressed the process for which those colleges, which also, that's a whole other issue, but yeah, so I would just say, let's not merge the two, make it any bigger. But I guess I think Trent was hitting the nail on the head earlier. What do we tell the president? Part of it also, where I'm sitting here is okay, a lot of support from the college. Now there's a conversation we had. Sorry, the department, yeah, not the college. There's some conversation we had about absences, and when we were looking at the not everybody was there. I think there's still a conversation we need to go into about how was the process really followed accordingly, or if it was followed correctly. So that's number one. But then number two is I think that if I've learned anything about last year, it's being fully transparent with President Myers and saying hey, here's where we're totally here are our cards, and that we totally understand that there's this support from the students, but we don't want to go down this road. And I think that's always an option. I don't know what that looks like, I'll be honest, but I think that to Cindy's point, part of it's like, maybe we need to, say let's put the brakes on this whole operation. We gotta figure out if this is something we really wanna do as a university. I don't think it is, because I think that every other indicator has been going towards, a more, I was gonna say transparent college fee thing, but there's a double-edged sword with this whole thing, right? So the double-edged sword with transparency is that either is transparency knowing up front exactly, having it all looped together so it's very clear what you pay, or is transparency the nickel and diming, hey, here's exactly what that $5 goes towards. That's transparent too. And then the double-edged sword on the college versus department-wide fee is that if I'm in family studies, I don't want to pay for a fee that's only going to help personal financial planning. But then also the double-edged sword with that is what we're looking at now, which is that it opens the floodgates and everybody comes and asks for a department-wide fee. So it's like, talk about a conundrum.
If we go back to a college-wide fee, and in that hypothetical, and it is a college-wide fee, I'm sure the Department of Family Studies can find something to spend the money on if they're allocated a department or a college-wide fee.
Perhaps it would be though. If it was a college-wide fee, I mean, there are plenty of college-wide fees that are not, like, the college-wide fee does not necessarily mean that every department gets a little bit. I think about being strategic, I think there's a lot of strategy which is good on the dean's behalf to say, for the first 2 years of engineering increases, we didn't hire every department. No, we're like, hey, we got issues, accreditation, mechanical, computer science, boom, boom.
Right.
Kittlewood didn't see a dollar until this year, which is fine. Because that's what, you know what I mean?
So it would still be up to the dean for how those dollars are spent. So is that this would be changing directions entirely, that if we took the 2 department requests and figured out what that would be across the college.
Would that work?
And then you're staying true to the college fee and not allowing us to go down that deep hole of going with department fees, because that hole will never get to the bottom of it.
So seeing how it would benefit the entire college and not just those departments? Or is that what
You're saying have a
Like take
$5 increase.
Yeah.
So we can calculate.
It would be minimal.
What it would
250 or something like
require
that.
for the college to increase their fee for the good of the college, I guess you could look at that way, to generate the revenue that is being requested from the Department of Kinesiology.
But why would the other college want to pay that fee if it's going to be targeted towards these programs?
Because for the good of that college.
But this was not put forward in that manner, in that
It wasn't.
way. So,
University of Arizona was on campus to talk about their budget model. And what I've heard a lot from that is, in the models, keep it simple and to really look at what's the best for the university or because we're all, congregated what's best for that college. I guess you could pie it down. And that's where, I was sitting here kind of thinking of that. And if it's something that the dean truly believed and supported, that it was necessary for the benefit of his college. And maybe we're I like that. I
I
something
have a
to
hard time
pursue,
believing.
I don't know.
I have a hard, well,
You're in the college, so.
right, well, I have a hard time believing if you go to the college students and say, we're gonna do a fee and we're gonna give it all these 2 programs, that they're gonna vote,
Yeah, they would be supportive.
for that, I guess, and say that they're supportive of
It's
doing
just,
that.
it's late to be trying to do different
But
things.
since we took the request, I think we're obligated to look at them. Although we probably should have stepped back and had a philosophical conversation about whether this committee should do that. It just kind of got thrown into the system and we'll try that. But truly, with the college fee right now, the dean has the decision whether he wants to put it in family studies and dietetics, nutrition,
Right.
There's still that flexibility that dean has about where he uses the
Right.
college fees anyway. So even though students in another area might have paid for that, it's still gonna go where the dean wants it to go.
Ultimately, I like to believe that everything's going to even out in the end in terms of tuition and fees as you merge them together. Because what most colleges, at least with respect to engineering, we're looking at is it's our student to faculty ratio. And so how do we, if we have, we want to get to 19 all the way across the board in all our departments, we're going to be using our tuition revenue and our fee revenue to get there. And so still per student based on where that money's coming from. That's probably a really poor way to explain that everything works out. But I think it does. I think it does. Yeah, because they're going to look at it and they're going to say we want every single department to get to 19-1 or something like that. And they're going to use all their revenue streams wherever they need to go to get there.
Just thinking, James had a good point that students support the merits of the fee, right? And that's what we've heard loud and clear. They support the merits of the fee for the whole last 2 weeks of conversation, right? So what we're not doing is saying we disagree with the merits of the fee. We're saying we disagree with the precedent of the fee. So I think there's a resolution there, sure, is that like when talking with, I don't think that we have to be at odds with either one. Or I think Heather's got a good point that there are other ways to accomplish the merits of this fee, sure. And President Myers does have the ability to.
I mean, those are the two models. I think we either do it by college or we do it university-wide. I mean, those are the other two options.
Sure.
But then folks are gonna say, but we didn't have the opportunity to bring forward our great ideas and needs, and it opens up a big.
And we started using, yeah.
But, just kind of stuff, right?
I think one thing with Heather's point too is one thing that was highlighted kind of as a problem this year is bringing CTCs here, that obviously they're going to want a fee increase for their college, for their department to generate more revenue, and what team wouldn't support a departmental fee in their college. So I think one thing that could be strategic about moving forward with what Heather said is a CTC within the college to that dean. So it's not so decentralized to CTC or to TFSC. Does that make sense?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Take it back up to a college-wide CTC.
Because, they came in here, they've already had their discussions, they're supportive, and that wasn't very productive for anyone almost. And I don't mean to say that rudely, but that's definitely a growing part for next year. So I think one thing that could be mediated by that is pushing it back to the colleges, and that would definitely produce a lot more conversation on what department maybe needs to have some priority in the college, rather than coming to us once they're decided. I know it's down the road, but looking big picture, I think that could be helpful.
Well, it's not down the road.
Well, yeah.
It's
down the road of our decision almost.
No, I know, but that's a good point though.
Yeah.
It's that's a really good point.
It's it all together. The two issues.
Yeah.
Really does.
So I gotta say, we're kind of this groupthink. Farmer fees are the worst thing ever. Is there anybody wants to offer some stories of that? And we talked about it's as direct as possible.
Not related to that, but I wish the new provost could be here.
Yeah.
I wish there would be too, because this is important stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the only positive is how much the students supported it. You look at that, the micro lens, because these students, maybe they had more discussions than I already knew about it, but they were overwhelming in favor of it. And so if you just look in students' needs, these students, maybe they're not thinking grand scheme of things, but the thing that's best fits them, and it does, and it really helps their majors and programs out, and so it's not bad for them, obviously. And so if it doesn't go through, all the things that they said they would get and accomplish, that doesn't happen anymore. They're kind of counting on that after they voted, overwhelmingly yes. So.
I think a positive is it's as transparent as possible to a student, but I'm not.
On one side,
on one side, it's you're paying, it's going there, but.
My thing is this adds to when I enroll at K-State and PFP,
That's not.
There's no,
transparent.
there's no way in hell I'd know that I'd have a $15, there's no way.
Or you're talking about changing your major too.
Yeah.
It would be a real mess.
Or it's like if you have diverse interests going into college, I feel like undergrad you're supposed to take classes across different departments. You have an education. Like if it's $100 more to take a science class, I would take more science classes. What's the incentive?
I asked Jordan to grab last year's senior ecology proposal. I want to see how much they were trying to generate from $15 to try to see rough number wise how we could generate 220,000 bucks. Oh,
Sorry, I could only find your notes.
that's probably cheap chicken scratch.
It has the amount on it though.
Oh, cool. So $20 per credit hour generates $1.1 million. What's the total that we need to do here? I just think the number's interesting, even if we don't have any interest in this. There is about $220,000. So what's that? How much do I look at that?
Both fees.
$5.
Yeah, 1/5.
Or no, 1/5 of 20, yeah. About $4 credit. More than. No, that's. Yeah. That's a lot of money. Where's the raise? What are we thinking?
So even if you say you can split it up like that, you still have to go back in and tell everybody at college now, right?
You bet.
Completely have a new committee, and so it's a little late to even go ahead with what's there if we want to change it up.
It's late, but that would be, that's how we're gonna do it one way or another.
The problem is that's not what the college was asked to do. The
Right.
college is just completely on department level. There was no, this wasn't that this was strategic, these are the units that need the most, you know what I mean? It was that these are the two that thought that they had a cause that they could get people, that they had support for. And that's why they came forward.
What would happen, I'm not proposing, I just want to throw something out that you can react to. What would happen if you simply said, thank you to the proposals, you're not going to accept departmental, we're in a fluid situation here. You're not going to accept departmental fees, that it has to be sponsored by the dean, has to be part of the dean's strategic plan. They have if they justify it to a dean, you'll listen to an overall fee for a college, but not a departmental fee. This strengthens the relationship you have with deans, and let them decide what's important within their college. I don't think that's any different than what engineering has done, what arts and sciences has done. They strategically said to us, to you, this is where we're going to place the dollars, and they chose what department or what area was going to receive support, and what area wasn't. I respect the proposals that say no departmental fees. We're learning as we go, and we want to go to college, and that could be next year, but it's not something that you'll entertain at this point. Because of all the moving parts, put yourself in a position where you do want to have dialogue. I think the vice president is right. When you hear department heads or faculty senators saying, hey, wait a minute, this is going to open up a lot. There's concerns overall through the academy. Just as we established this committee, shared governance needs to be expanded a little bit broader for our conversation now, and not feel rushed or threatened. I think you've done an admirable job. You've recognized a process, you're refining that process. We don't have a model out there. It's not like we say XYZ school does it this way. This is the K-State way. And so I would propose to consider the possibility of moving in a direction that brings back the responsibility under the dean and a college fee.
Part of my other thought is, so there was this $20 proposal last year. whether or not need, I mean, it didn't pass, but is there not a, like, what about those needs? No, like, I think that's part of something I was thinking about earlier is Dr. Bosco's point about being strategic. It's like, yeah, this is obviously where exactly the needs were, but I mean, I think that Team Buckwalter last year talked about wanting to having some needs across the board. One of those needs no longer there. Like,
they're still there. That's what I'm trying to communicate. It's not that there aren't needs in other units. You know what I mean? It's that these are the two that came forward because they were bold enough to do it. If I was not in my unit, it probably would be here. You know, if I wasn't here saying, this is what I heard about what happened last year, I don't think we have a case, you know, based off of where we're at to be able to sell this, there'd probably be one for my unit sitting here too.
You think that was what was brought forward was the highest priority?
No.
Or you think what was brought forward was to have the most support from students? I'm trying to understand why these came forward, not others.
I think it was that they were the most organized within their unit, and they thought that they had support and had something that they could sell. You know what I mean? I guess to try to get the fee approved.
Perhaps what we kind of talked about, perhaps there's an equivalence in most colleges as well. There's a reason, it depends on the willingness of a dean to ask for a college fee.
I think there was some frustration last year that the college one did not get accepted. And so came back and said, okay, we're going to get specific and we're going to put forward really specific ones and things. And rather than focus at the college, we'll have units focus on what they want to propose.
So I wonder, obviously it's going to come from the dean one way or another for a college-wide fee. I totally hear you. We don't want to say, okay, let's.
Right? I mean, the
What's
dean
that?
was any fee. The dean was here, represented, and so I think the dean needs to support any fee that comes from their college.
Absolutely. And my comment is just going to be that if we have, we probably shouldn't try to slice and dice the numbers to find the right dollar amount, and just basically, advocate for that because we have to talk to the dean about it. But one way or another has to go back to the dean. So tell the dean, well, this is not a direction we want to go in. So the challenge is that there's no basis for that. But the other thing is there's probably a lot of support for that idea.
Yeah.
Amongst faculty and.
Do we need to take some time and over this next week and sit down with the provost and maybe the dean?
The dean and maybe even the president.
I've heard people are not with those two, but
Right.
And just have like a conversation.
Yeah.
And just kind of express the concern from the committee, and if they have some ideas, and here's some ideas that you all have come up with of maybe what could be considered to move forward, and just try to get some input from them before a decision's made either way. And then, we got plenty on the agenda to finish, but that might be another idea just to kind of keep us moving forward. I agree, you gotta have her input.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
So and I was gonna say, I did call her after that, or set up copies to say, here's what's going on. And she gave a couple comments. Well, one, she feels like I'm going to be here for long meetings. But she said that the reason why she allowed us to go forward and not, so, because I kind of said, what about, you don't let engineering go forward as, and, obviously, what's going on there? She said the reason why engineering didn't go forward as department-wide fee is because they were set, how many fees? 7?
It was every single item.
Every
department had the same amount. It was the same fee. It was a college-wide fee. This guy's, no, that's great. Jordan said it, so it'll be fine. So, but like, it's like this department-wide fee, or the college-wide fee, it really was. Whereas this one was, it is different, like they're hiring instructors, so that. So I understand that. She also had provided some personal, I guess, kind of testimony that she was at an institution where they had department-wide fees, where it was very specific for that niche, something that worked well, I'm okay with it. But so
Maybe supporting for them, okay?
and she did say that's why I support it. So she did say that.
Did you ask about the potential for a lot more next year?
I said we're going to open the floodgates, and she said, well, there's a lot of checks to that. Her replacement as one of them. And that's that. I mean, it is kind of I thought James was a good point, though, that we allow one to squeak by. But, I mean, next year.
Setting precedent, I don't care.
So you can't shut it, you can't say we're going to give these two and then not going to allow any more.
It's last two now. You're right. So that's what Pearl Basin kind of had to say. I think that, so to take a point, I think we say, here's where we are. We don't feel comfortable opening this floodgate. We also are in a weird spot where we don't have like a lot of, I think, a big university decision, I guess, in this room that doesn't involve, there's one faculty member here, and, that's
An important one.
a very important one, of course. All right, 1.5. And, but so that's, that's, would be, something. We don't have a meeting with President Myers when come out or anything. I was just trying to think.
Good idea.
Well, us are meeting tomorrow, but we talk about it then. But us.
We have on Tuesday.
Look at the Robo schedule to try to.
You have one on Tuesday with the president.
He can invite you in.
What do we last 5 minutes?
It's a topic anyway.
It is a topic.
Yeah, I mean, faculty are concerned, it's a topic. It was pretty clear, so it's.
There was one person in it, and I thought,
Okay, I missed it. Senate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So there is a discussion happening.
oh, no, not discussion. There's support. This is a bad idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
There was
I didn't hear anybody say, this is a good idea.
This is a good precedent to move forward.
They said, has anybody really thought about what you're opening doors to? Was kind of the.
There's a department head said, don't you dare allow this to happen.
But then said,
Who is he telling not to allow this to happen?
but
Okay.
then he said,
But here's a good point though. I would do it. He said, I'm getting reviewed next year, and if there's
I
this,
need resources.
he says, how you say if there's money out there, you find a $20 bill on the street, like, oh, I'm not gonna pick it up, same kind of thing.
Can't blame them, they're trying.
Yeah.
No, I so appreciate that candor and honesty because I think that is absolutely what is gonna happen. So, okay. I think we got our work cut out for us in the next calendar week.
Well, knowing that information, I think that is important to take to the president, right? This discussion.
We'll tell them, I've come at the provost several times with this. I don't think we have a difference of opinion on what this precedent is setting, so.
Well, she has experience at another institution, so
Right,
that,
she does.
there's something there,
Yeah.
but.
Okay.
If we're moving topics, I just have a quick, I got a text, UPC has kindly brought up chips and salsa outside in CSI, bring up to TFSC, so if anyone would like chips and salsa, they brought it up for us.
Chips and salsa and popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have everything.
I myself will go get some, if anyone wants to join me.
Alrighty. Trent, what's up?
do you think there's a,
Just so is not
do you think there's a, should we go back to the college and talk about this? Or,
At some point,
Well, absolutely. That's going to need to happen regardless.
yeah.
it'd be nice to figure out where administration is.
Regardless, we're going to have to go back to the college to talk about this because that is the process. If we disagree, we take it back out to the college. But also it was written as a college-wide deal. So this is really, I think that we need to hit pause on everything.
Yeah.
To figure out what we're going to do. So that's why I'm kind of thinking there's like this big prior question here, which is, is this something that we're gonna do? I also have an interesting, I don't want to put words in my mouth, but do you think that President Myers necessarily wants to open this door? I mean, the provost doesn't, but like,
She doesn't?
sorry, does, she does,
Oh, okay.
she does, right. But I mean, I could, I don't,
We haven't had the discussion.
We haven't had the discussion.
I mean, we haven't talked about it in the modernization meetings and, I mean, I'm just not aware.
Gotcha.
Bring it up to his attention.
I think
I
that.
feel like we need to.
Let's be proactive, let's talk about it then, and then we can, rather than say we're gonna pass it or fail it, I think it's a good point, figure out what we're gonna
We
do
need
first.
to withhold, I think.
Yeah, let's hold it, so. Well, we got our work cut out first for this committee for the rest of the semester, so. Should we good to go? Does anybody have any objections to holding this for a week? Or kind of have some discussion here on the outside, and figure out what. Cause the other thing is like, if we make a university-wide decision, we're not doing this. Which is awesome, I think it's a good decision to make. Then it will be up to the dean and the provost. Then what I think we should say, I think maybe our ask, I think maybe we clarify what we're looking for. In a perfect world for me, we make the university-wide decision, we're not doing department fees. And the dean and the provost can talk, and if they decide that they want to ask for a college-wide fee to address the concerns they have this year, then that would be something we would consider. Even though it's way out of cycle and we'll have a 7 a.m. breakfast meeting and head over by his coffee.
Sure, how about a midnight?
A midnight meeting, I was gonna say, there you go.
Aren't you all up late?
That's right. Does that sound does that sound okay? I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I feel like generally there's the census here that we want to respect the students' wishes, we want to respect what the students.
You wouldn't have, are you gonna send it back and have them get college feedback and all that sort of stuff, or what if you do that, and they're gonna have to reformulate the whole thing, and so it's not
That's not as
small,
easy, yeah.
it's not a small ask. You know what I
I'm
mean?
not sure it's feasible for them to meet the threshold that we have for our college-wide fees in the amount of time they have.
I mean, one way you guys could look at this is that you guys have a process. They came in very different, you know what I mean, than what the process kind of lays out. And so you could evaluate it that way, but that's kind of your view on how you want.
We could vote it down based on that the process was not followed on our end.
Right. As we outlined, and that's one of the things we got the email from the dean that said we're going to do it in the spirit of the process.
Yeah.
And our argument is simply to try. What do you think, Ryan?
Well, I think when we take it, we're making them think that we're going to seriously consider it. So if we decide, oh, no, we're not going to seriously consider it, probably should have just sent it right back to you at that point, then does that decision not require us, but encourage us to be able to let them respond back in the college kind of approach and still have that chance? Because if back in the day when they brought this forward, we said, no, this is a departmental, we don't do departmental. They may have regrouped and come up with a college fee. And so we've taken that opportunity for them to do that. Maybe that's okay. But maybe their argument would be, hey, if we had known, we would have reformatted this and come at it this way through a college fee.
I wish we would have had this conversation in February, yeah. So. Uncharted territory, folks.
See, and I might digress from that a little bit, Heather, because in my opinion, they still would have missed the February 1st deadline. They made the decision within their college that they wanted to do departmental-wide fees, and then that's what they presented to the provost. And so to me, like, that was their decision to go down that route, and then it's up to as a group to consider what they've given us.
And would they say back to you, but you didn't support our fee last year. We felt like our hands were tied and we needed to try a different approach.
Well, keep in mind,
They could have come
This is
back
not
with
the
smaller
same committee
numbers.
as last
Right,
year.
this is, ultimately, it's the same, it's a different committee from last
And
year.
we also threw a huge fit
It was a $20 fee.
we also threw a huge fit about another college on campus that tried to do something similar.
Yeah. And I think what they presented us this year is the equivalent of a $4 college-wide fee. So it's in volume a lot less, but it's still about the same impact in just a couple of spots.
And it's not like Dean Buckleter hasn't had really good practice at navigating this committee. I mean, and to me, I hear that maybe the college was getting creative in how they could generate more revenue overall.
Not necessarily make something more palatable.
Yeah.
Their creativity should have been fundraising and state advocacy. And
Well, I mean, yeah. But I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, and this is a conversation that Dean Winter and I had earlier, is the reason why business passed last year was we said, hey, we got bottlenecks, we got people that can't sit for the CPA, and here's where we need funding, boom, 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 college-wide fee to do that. And the reason why I voted down community college last year is because the rationale was we need to hire faculty. Whereas they came back and said, hey, whether it's $20 a credit hour or less, whatever your take is, here's the specifics that you've been asking for 2 years. That's a different ballgame. Undeniably, we should have said this in February, but I mean, it's like.
Yeah. Well, would we have accepted a college-wide proposal after the February 1st deadline?
No.
Because I feel like we would have just kicked it back and said, sorry, nice try for presenting a department-wide fee, but we're not going to accept it. And so I don't know if he would have in turn said to us then, well, can I try a college-wide fee? Or a lot of what ifs, for sure.
So we can give this a week?
I was gonna say, I move we table this discussion for a week until after the provost and Dean Buckwalter have been met with.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any debate on holding this for a week? Sweet. If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of holding this for 1 week, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, please raise your right hand. In the opinion of the co-chair, that is a majority. So we will hold it in committee. If not,
All right. Okay, this should be easier. So, active infrastructure support fee. All right, folks. So, keep in mind, academic infrastructure support fee generates. This year generated about $1.8 million, right? 1.8.
Yes.
We said this year.
Yeah.
900 of which goes to the business building. 900 of which gets used for renovation. So we took a student survey, and that is way at the bottom here. Student survey that went out on campus, got some really good feedback and some really good results. Couple things I want to discuss. First of all is process. So when we kind of had this discussion initially, I think there's an assumption that I made that was a really dumb one, that there was a lot more university dollars for renovation than there actually was. And so, whereas instead of us supporting university priorities, it's really that the pot of funding is primarily student dollars, right? And so as we talked about, university has about 1.2 million or 1.3.
Yeah, I think there's another 300,000.
300,000. So
And maybe four, if you include education building funds.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But so primarily student, and so we decided kind of that it would be, effective to basically, even though there's different pots of funding, we need to kind of come together and have a conversation about how we best utilize this, our dollars that we have. In fact, our dollars are limited. So process-wise, I think what's going to be best is that we put together this group. I'll show you a kind of step through here. The benefit to this discussion is that largely the faculty survey lines up with the student survey, which lines up with facilities priorities, which lines up with ITS priorities. So I don't think there's anything too wild in here. We'll go through it though. So once we put forward, here's kind of where we need to focus. Basically, here's what we need to focus on this year. It'll go to a larger committee that has student representatives. I was just copied on an email asking for that today, which we'll talk about. I don't know how many we want.
Yeah.
We're going to put forward and kind of where those come from. But student representatives, faculty, staff, facilities, ITS, and that group's going to get together and develop a multi-year plan. So 3 or 4 year strategic plan. Here's where we're going to spend the money. Here's how much it's going to cost. Here's what that all looks like. It'll come out to TFSC before the end of the year if we can make it happen. If not, in the fall for approval of that process. That sounds pretty correct. So let's step through here real quick. I just say off the bat, there's a little bit of a challenge here where we have a lot of arts and sciences students that fill this out. Perhaps there's a concern there. Also, my argument to that was that arts and science students that generally are not in the College of Business building and engineering building, and there are some reasons for perhaps more excitement to talk about rooms that need renovated. And there are bigger students, absolutely.
So makes sense to me.
So we're talking about for furniture type. Furniture is the number one thing that matters to students. Meaning our fixed table, mobile armchair. This is not the fixed table and mobile chairs, or other things. The fixed tablet arms, which was in Carwell 103. A picture of here in a couple minutes, is not preferred. I can't fit it in, but there's other reasons for that. Active style is the best way to go. Preferred classrooms, probably know this. That's the new ones. And I think that's the most important slide. Classrooms in need of renovation, most in need of renovation. In reverse order, 123 Weber. And I'll scroll back and forth here with pictures of these rooms. 120 Acker, 114 Willard, 103 Cardwell, 1018 Throckmorton, 102 Cardwell, and 1066 Durland, and 015 Eisenhower. So let's go back up here. We got pictures of these. Okay. Weber 123. We never had a class in here, but
Horrible.
it looks pretty horrible.
One time just a lot.
Centimeter broken chair in here.
I broke my toe in that.
Class. Pretty not good. Accurate 120.
That was also my first impression of a college classroom.
Oh man. I think that Dr. Lynch would hit his head if he's in the back row. And accurate 120.
I get tall in there, so.
Right.
Is that a human body classroom?
That's the human body classroom. Yeah, the lecture hall. Willard 114, this one where you can hear the toilets flush above you. You know what I'm talking about?
Also had a wash nest in there.
Yeah.
We can deal with the washing up the
That's true.
toilets, I'm sorry. That's
It's
a huge mechanical thing.
You can hear it. It's like, oh, okay, there they go again. Cardinal 103, I think he's the worst chairs on campus.
Yeah.
I mean,
They were there when I was on campus. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this. In the late 70s or late 80s.
I was gonna say 2000. I was trying to take John. There's a couple people here that take this taking engineering physics test in here. That was brutal. I mean, that was terrible.
At least at a desk in between.
Yeah, I used to put a piece of paper like on my toe. Not good. Throckmorton 1018 is the orange room.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice and orange. Cargo 102, similar story, a little smaller than 103. Right? Yeah. Eisenhower 15, this is a similar one, very it's hard to see in the back. I had a class in here.
Is every single one we've seen so far has been the tablet, the tablet vids are not, they're all fixed to the ground.
Yeah.
Pretty well in a straight line.
Yeah.
See, it's awful.
Yeah, we're seeing it consistent.
Yeah.
See, the chairs are really they have you can lean back in the chairs and see
Oh, yeah.
seven there, and those are broken.
I'm broken.
Those are literally falling off the desk or not working very well.
So, in the school, because it'll go in here and it'll tell you what's wrong, which is awesome. Temperature control, there's small desks. Wi-Fi connection issues. Accurate 120 I have a lot in common. There's lack of visibility. That's awesome. Number 114, it doesn't say anything about the toilet, but that's a big issue. So anyway, none of this should be surprising. I think everybody's going through oh yeah, screw that place. So I think it really is. This is kind of interesting, this last part. Number one thing, classes on campus should offer a physically comfortable learning environment. That is important stuff, which, I mean, I saw like when this question was on the survey, I was like a little unsure about it, but I think it is an interesting thing that above all else, it doesn't matter how fancy the desks are, the technology, or if it, you can turn into a pod and stuff like that, but if you're physically uncomfortable in the class, or if you're, paper on a textbook doesn't fit at the desk.
41 rows back, like a student, another.
How much input was there on temperature control?
So the issue, temperature control, is that is ultra expensive to fix.
Yeah.
I've been regularly skipping in class because it's 85 degrees.
I hear that.
We also spend millions of dollars on
We spend millions of dollars putting the infrastructure in on a chilling system so we can hook up buildings to that. The problem is now we gotta go into buildings and build ductwork in 100 and whatever year old buildings. That's like Eisenhower, we thought, oh wow, let's look at that.
Did you still like that? Like, is that happening?
The AW grass, right there.
There we go.
So that had the heating cooling on the right side.
So heating and cooling is by far, Trent,
They can plan all.
you see this one right here? Heating and cooling is by far the most important, I guess.
So it's like.
Middle of that.
Just.
Right, it's
moderated.
but
So furniture technology, then HVAC. So, okay, all of this is to say that we have a lot of agreement here on what's going on with these classrooms. This is something that Rebecca Gould from ITAC put together. Basically, it just says like it's really cool because the ones that she's highlighted that have a lot of student votes, I guess Willard's not on there. Like Water 123, Carl 103, it's on the priority list for a plan that was made in 2015. And so Jordan and I sat down with her and she went through some of those plans in 2015. And she says, like, she didn't put the numbers in here because she said some things have changed since then. She wants to get new numbers. So that's kind of
That's really cool.
going on here. I think it's also made a lot of agreement. The challenge, we don't have the numbers on those yet, but that can happen. We can get new. It's not bids, I guess, but it's more like planning.
Just an estimate on
An
it.
estimate.
Once we know what renovations, what upgrades you wanna see,
There you
then
go.
we can put together, facilities can put together. some
Like how many of you been in, was it Umberger 105? Not that big room?
The 400, yeah.
Have you been in there? That used to be a classroom that looked like the ones you're looking at. I mean, it was literally like 45 rows back. You had to like binoculars out, to see the person at the front of the room. And so you can look at how they flipped that, and change the orientation sideways now. And now they're only like 10 rows back. It is
So
max.
just think of that picture there and flip the seats so that it's long,
Yeah.
length rows, but they're not as deep.
And you do more of
And so
a
you're,
shell, kind of around the
Justin has that as well.
but not massive, and
Sure, it's not huge, but it still has that super
Correct.
wide
Yes, yeah.
where it doesn't start back. So
I think it's like 1066.
1076 is, yeah. So, okay, so I guess what we're looking for then is from this committee, is there anything that's not on here that needs to be, that you hear every day from students that is not on this list? Or is there any classrooms up here that you disagree with, are not in need of being a priority? This is not a final list by any means. This just says we're on the right track. It's a start. And here it says facilities and ITF need to get together and figure out what are their plans for these rooms based on this data here that says here's what the plans should be with what
I just wanted to caution you,
stuff.
don't put in new furniture 45 rows back, I guess is what I was trying to say. You know what I mean? So I know they said furniture and they want to be comfortable, but if they're 45 rows back as a faculty member, it is hard to gauge a student that is physically like a football field, away. So
Sure. So and that's one of the things that kind of came up is that we had a chat with facilities though about how we could accomplish some like furniture stuff this year, and that would be good because then it's like students have been paying this for a year now. So I'm sensitive to wanting to start like having students see some bang for their buck. But at the same time, though, it's probably going to be a waste of money.
It probably wouldn't be in these spaces.
Right.
There may be other classrooms that we could identify that we don't have to reconfigure the space, that we could enhance the furnishings more immediate, so the students can see some benefit next fall.
Like Derwin 1066, where it's great HVAC and everything, it just has bad seating.
So that's the type, but yeah, we don't wanna invest and then have to rip them out.
Oh, we got
turn
great
them
seats,
around.
but the orientation of this room is really inadequate, for a learning environment.
The other thing that Rebecca, or I don't know, I think it was Rebecca Gould said that I thought was a really interesting point is that sometimes, like with the furniture we want, might change the capacity of the room, but she said that's okay because we have. If 10 years ago that would have been a really bad deal, but now that's okay to have that, not to say we're going to change them all, but to have that conversation about changing them if we can make things work with the registrar to say, is there, if you're filling up a classroom, not right, if rooms are at capacity. It's kind of, I thought that was a
So we're looking at the inventory and then the demand for class sizes. And it could be there's some capacity to change some of that. I can't remember now the sizes they said there was a demand on. 30 to 60 or something maybe, but.
And it's all like 11:30, it's like the right times too.
Yeah.
30 to 10 or whatever it's.
How are those rooms scheduled and coordinated? Is it by one office or?
And that's one thing I was going to say real quickly is that we outlined last year, kind of started talking about this, and we kind of solidified it this year amongst this working group of faculty, staff, and students, that we don't want to spend any of those fee dollars on classrooms that are not general use classrooms. So they're all centrally scheduled in the office of the registrar.
Lolita.
Yeah.
If you know Lolita.
The registrar and then facilities has the software that the registrar is using to try to help facilitate all this. So yeah, it's both of the areas.
It's complex. Just be glad you're not.
There's an individual who does this, and she said, "No, this is what I do." So, much respect. I never do that. So, I feel like we need to stick to that. I think that's really important because I had got emails back on the survey we sent out that said, "Why is English and Counseling Services not on here?" I said, "Those were all departmental classrooms."
Or owned by the department.
Owned by the department. So, additional kind of responses, reactions, any concerns with this? If not, I'd take a motion to basically send this on to the next step, which will be a larger group. We'll have student input, and we'll start doing some pricing and some strategic planning. Doesn't take out of our hands, so it'll come back here for final approval.
I know that like on the list of colleges, there was not a number for college value investment, but we don't pay into this fund, so we shouldn't go on it anyways.
Gotcha. That's good. I appreciate that.
Your college does a pretty good job of investing back into their facilities and trying to.
We're kind of corporate selling out right now.
Yeah.
We need to learn
The Pepsi classroom.
Seriously, you may need to be looking.
So my list of 57 facilitates other students.
Sure.
But just kind of be wary about that as well, that our entry students are probably going to slowly be moving out of that college, or that lecture hall.
Gotcha.
So that's just something to think about as well.
Take appreciation of architecture, maybe put it over in big one instead.
Yeah, we have a new lecture hall in Rainier Hall, which is a lot.
That's
nice.
barn, right?
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. It's really nice. But yeah, no. So just like go about that as well.
It's really interesting though, because if you look at all these classrooms, we're trying to go around and flip them, and then Rainier Hall is massive. Like movie theater, So
it's like movie theater, and we have these massive like screens on there and stuff. It's really nice for lectures and stuff as well.
I think it works for your guys' discipline. It's just interesting from the we're like, oh, we're trying to get students closer, and they're like, ooh, we're gonna put them on the second floor.
So on top of hill. Somebody want to make a motion to approve it? Trent, sorry.
I move we approve this and send it on.
Second.
Alright, been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Alright. we'll send it on. We've got to talk about students
Okay, yeah.
on the committee. So that'll be part of what we'll talk about next week too, is figuring out who from this group wants to serve on it. There's a bit of a discussion about students that would be most affected by this, arts and sciences. Like in other words, like it probably doesn't make sense to have an engineering rep on this committee. We'll talk about that though.
Well, it might because
If
of
you
how
s-
much arts and sciences classes they take.
That's your point.
I
That's your
think it
point.
might be good to
I'd
have
say
similar to
business
TFSC
and
where there's one
architecture.
for
There's
every
one for
college.
college.
There's
like
one
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
But-
some brainstorming for next week. Cool. All right. Excellent. Next, fee review process. I raced through this last time we were talking about the use of let's see, internal auditing to best look at how the college is spending fee dollars. Colleges are spending fee dollars. To provide a brief refresher, I found this long lost note sheet that I made when we were meeting with Steve Lefevre. Stop sharing. Alright. So the financial audit, you have a financial audit of fiscal year 17 completed by September 30th of 18, which would allow the 2018-2019 tuition and fees committee to review that. The two that we had pitched for that were arts and sciences and human ecology, just because those are, I guess, the more recent. Well, I don't remember how I can't read my writing, which is awesome. But point is, and then for fall of, yeah. So it's just 2 years behind every time we do it. So we have a fiscal year 17, which we review in the middle of fiscal year 19. Does that make sense? It's how privilege fee works, where you have a 2 fiscal year delay, but it's really only 1. No, it's not. It's 2. It's actually a 2 year delay. So
This for a 3-year allocation.
for a 3 year allocation.
Yes,
Yeah. Sorry.
that's where it's during.
That's right. It's in that first. Yeah. Any thoughts on this? I know. Once again, I feel like we're kind of at the same point where the 2 times we talked about this, Provost hasn't been here, so I'd kind of like for her to be here before we pull the trigger on anything. But is that something that is? Do we feel like that's a good move to make? What it would be as a financial audit, so not a traditional.
Yeah, that was what was the objective again?
Yes.
Compliance review?
So it's not a compliance review. So like our privilege fee audits are all compliance reviews. Like we've said, here's how these dollars can be spent. Like, and since we have not specifically said, like when you have like tuition dollars, whatever, or when you have like fee dollars, for example, one of the points that the internal auditor brought up is it okay with you if the college business who has a surcharge for faculty has spent surcharge dollars on travel for a faculty member? Is that okay with you? Is that okay with you if it's, I can't remember what kind of the other,
So is
the list of different accounts. But sorry, I was just saying, let me finish thought and then I'll answer the question. But what this would do is it would not say yes or no, it would simply be a readout of here's how it has been spent at in 17.
so we have an internal audit office, correct? Or
Correct.
That's
are they regularly reviewing when they review colleges? What are they? Or when they audit colleges, what are they doing?
They have very different purposes for each audit. And usually it's to address concerns with non-compliance. And so they don't have a schedule where they're regularly reviewing, when they have a very small staff.
Yeah.
And they're not able to do, a lot of things. So what they're doing is trying to identify areas that they have concern with.
Okay. Yeah.
But we would also do, like, so.
But if you're just wanting a financial report that basically says, here's how they spent the funding, we need to get that through other means. We need to get that through financial services, because I think all of it is tracked in separate projects. So we can just run a report out and share that. We budget office or my office, whatever, to give you, and then it'll show by object code how the funding is spent.
Oh, right.
So maybe that is more what the goal of the committee is.
That might be a
How
little
did they
more.
spend the money? We can get your report.
Do we do an external audit by a firm, by a public firm?
So the state, because the university's public,
Yeah.
part of the state has an external audit that's done every year. The university is a part of that. And so they have auditors that come out and just look at all funds, all state funds
But
of
it's not,
universities.
it's not very in depth.
But it's very high level, and they're looking for other types of compliance that the state is asking them to review.
Gotcha.
So it's not like this. So, I mean, I really thought it was more of, this is what you told us, that you're gonna spend this fee up, and then we're gonna give this the internal audit, these are the items they can do, and then they go and look and say, is that what they spend it on? But
And
if
so
you're just wanting to see, how do they spend it? We can give you a report out of the counties, and I can share with that, let you look at it.
That'd be
before you
awesome.
make any kind of decisions, just to see what I'm talking about.
that'd be awesome because I think the challenge, like, well, basically what Steve said was that he basically said, I don't feel comfortable, or I can't. He said, you can't enforce a policy you never created. So like, we never sat down and said, hey, this can be used on T&E.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of lines across the university that you have travel expenditures on, right, as part of your,
Oh, absolutely,
right, I mean, with GU dollars,
absolutely.
your travel
And-
conferences and
yeah.
stuff.
Now, what's happened is the state general fund piece is there's not a lot of that's budgeted in operating on salaries of GU dollars, so it's getting smaller. What they are able to spend on travel, for that example.
Because it's all OOE.
The OOE budget for GU is very small.
Oh, okay.
And so they have to use other sources to travel on.
Because
They don't have a big operating
salaries have,
budget, and salary is take,
as you clip the other end, you can't clip salaries.
as the state appropriations
Got it.
decline, they have had to reduce that.
So let's do this. Can we take a look at like an example of that
Mhm.
and see
Your report,
what that provides?
like fiscal year 17, and
Or
end of year, and tell me what fee you wanna look at. And I'll go sure, make sure that they are keeping it within one project, so it's easy to.
yeah. We say arts and science. Why do we say arts and sciences first?
You wanna look at arts
It
and
was,
sciences?
well, it was, that was scheduled, I think. Is because
Well, that was scheduled to be
they-
reviewed.
Yeah.
So arts and sciences fee, and it would just be, that's the other thing we kind of talked about, having all fees. Like,
Jack, is that a good one? I'm just thinking, which one would give us like a good view into what it looks like?
agriculture would be
Yeah.
one. But we just reviewed ag, I feel like.
Well, I mean, not that we necessarily.
They have a lot of different, they have professional
Professional
advantage, and they have a lot of different faculty, I mean.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking like one that, because not that, are we reviewing something this year?
Well,
I think
No,
what we're
it'd just
doing
be-
at this point is just
Yeah.
looking at what the report looks like.
Yeah, and see, that's why I think we'd want to go on something that would give us a good variety of different pieces to it.
so were you thinking?
I think agriculture would probably be a great one. I don't know what arts and
And
sciences is for.
Ag would also be good because we can
Ag
kind
or
of
business.
compare and contrast to the presentation I gave last year
Yeah.
and see what additional information that shows.
I'll go out and see what I can find, but I'll focus on those
Perfect.
two,
Well,
That'd be great.
those two colleagues.
we'll be talking this week anyway with
So, yeah, I'm gonna come
so-
back and say, look, they didn't say, I mean, it's not as easy as what I think it is.
Right.
It's possible, because I need to do some fancy things, but, I mean, there is possibility for us to structure it so we can get a report and ask, because it needs to be accountable.
Right. And I think that Steve's point was just that, like, an internal audit is not going to give you what you think it will give you, was what I heard from that conversation.
Well, and he's right. I mean, they're looking back to policies. Are we following policies? And, I guess in my mind, I was kind of thinking, what was written in the annual report from this committee, this is what you approved based upon what the college told you, but
Right.
technically it isn't
And I care,
right. It's more like the privilege fee, but quite honest.
I care that
Well,
the ag fee, the employees that are on that fee are doing time and leave appropriately. but that's not my, you know what I mean? I'm more concerned about the broader spectrum of, is this, being utilized.
So what this will show you is categories of expenditures. So unclassified, it'll show you travel, it'll show you gasoline or whatever they actually spent. Not gonna tell you who, if it's a salary, we'll tell you the person. We can dig in and get to that, but it's just gonna give you overall the expense category.
Right.
And that, based upon what the state requires us to submit to them.
I think that's perfect.
Well, so one concern I like to at least consider is I feel like this, just getting the report, it'd be pretty much the TFSC would be doing the audit for the colleges. And then I think then that it introduces some inconsistency from year to year between committees.
Let's not call it an audit, let's call it a review.
A review, fair, we'll call it a review, right? So there'd be some inconsistency from review to review. Does one year we say, okay, T&E is great, and the next year, oh, that's, too much T&E, or
So you need to develop a process?
yes, I think we still need to have the standards that an audit would have, or that we would have for an audit.
Whatever you're expecting to get out.
Yeah.
Review,
So it doesn't feel to a dean like, oh,
and you're consistent.
we're on, it's on the whim of a committee.
That's what I was gonna say, are the dean's gonna have freak to the high heavens when.
So I think this review is less, hopefully less freak out than an audit,
Okay.
or maybe it steps us up to we take it as a step to an audit at some point, and then so we get two smaller freakouts.
Let's see what the review looks like. We'll see what that gives us first.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall the previous reviews, and if I remember right, it should be the information they're already given to you,
Yeah.
how they spent the revenue.
Yeah.
I think it just gets a little bit further down into it, which is good.
Into object based on our primary county. And it's simple, it's not time consuming, it's not creating more process, more cost.
Because an audit's going to take.
Providing information that's public.
That's what, and Steve kind of said that takes a lot of work on the college's end as well. They're sitting down with the financial administrator there and saying, okay, here's what we gotta do this and turn stuff over and stuff like that. So that's cool.
Okay, so see,
Yeah, awesome.
value.
Well, that sounds great. We're coming up on 7:30. I'd kind of like to get us out here soon. But I think with this craziness of the human ecology fees, or I should say departments of human ecology fees, let's table a discussion on what the new proposal process should look like. I think this is a little bit of a bigger discussion. Think about it though, we'll talk about it. We definitely will. If you have any thoughts, send them my way, send them Jonathan and I's way. Stephen, for example, laid out some thoughts that he had some concerns and possible solutions. That stuff's good. I think the more tangible we can get, the better, because that was our challenge this year, right? Is we had a document that said one thing, and then in practice, it is very difficult to. It's on paper. I think that what we learned this year is that on there's some challenges we faced in practice that were not able to be seen on paper, and so I think that the more specific we can get with some of those, the better. So that's like a plan, everybody. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll spring for pizza and one beverage at JP's.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna load up on chips.